Hey, everybody. How's it going? How's it going? I hope you guys are doing well. We are coming up very quickly on the end of the school year. Okay. I don't know when you guys will see this, but I think when you guys see this, there may be only like 1 week left of school. Okay. Maybe 1 week and a couple of days. But I'm recording this for the last full week of school. Okay. It is still June, and June we have one more very special thing that we have to discuss. Okay, so I'm gonna present my screen to you guys. Hold on for a second while I flip my screen. And hopefully you guys can see that June is called National Hunger Awareness Month. Okay. And I wanted to talk to you about this because it is something that is very important. There are a lot of people that go to bed at night hungry because they haven't had a meal during the day. Um, and their body just can't perform and do what it needs to do because they go to bed hungry. Okay. June happens to be the month where we talk about this to hopefully make a lot more of us realize that we need to do something to make sure that everybody gets the chance to eat during the day. Okay. So let's talk about why. First of all, what is hunger? Why it happens? Maybe a little bit of how we can prevent it. Okay. What we can do about it. So, a lot of us know the feeling of being hungry, right? When your tummy starts to rumble, uh, you feel maybe you feel like you don't have a lot of energy. Uh, it's being uncomfortable, okay? And for a lot of us, we have the ability to go grab a snack out of the refrigerator or ask our parents to make us something to eat, or even for us to be able to cook something to eat, right? Because there's access to food. There is food around us that we can be able to do that with, right? And you don't have to have a steak and a potato and a vegetable at every meal, right? Some meals are more delicious than others, right? But for a lot of people in this world, they know what it's like to really be hungry. A lot of us don't, right? We know that temporary feeling of being hungry, but there are way too many people in this world that know what it's like to be hungry and for real kind of hungry. Okay. Um, when we get a snack, our hunger is gone. But for a lot of those people, they stay hungry because they don't have access to food to be able to change that. Okay. Um, when you are hungry, right? If you can get a snack, things like your weakness, right? Maybe you feel a little sluggish. As long as you get a snack, then you get that energy back, right? But people that are really hungry, they can't get access to that food. So they start to get sick. And one of the first things that happens is they get something called malnutrition. Okay. And malnutrition is when your body is taking in some food, right? But it may not be enough of the right foods to make your body do what it needs to do, and allow you to perform at the way you want to perform. Okay. Malnutrition, let's think of this in terms of everybody likes McDonald's fries. Okay. Uh, if you all you were to do is eat McDonald's fries for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? You wouldn't be hungry no more. You would satisfy your hunger, right? But because McDonald's fries doesn't offer enough nutrition, eventually you would go into something called malnutrition, which means your body's not getting enough of the other proteins, enough of the other vitamins and minerals it needs to be able to perform at its best. Okay. And there are a lot of people that are have malnutrition in this world. Okay. If you keep on doing malnutrition or you don't have access to food at all, something that could happen would be called starvation, right? When somebody is starving, and that can actually lead to death. Okay. Starvation is when you're not taking in enough food at all, so your body starts to consume itself. It starts to eat its own muscle and its own fat, right? And eventually you're left with somebody that may look like just skin and bones, right? Maybe you've all seen a picture of somebody that's starving in another part of the world or another part of the United States, and you could see their ribs underneath their skin, right? That's somebody that's suffering from starvation. And that's because of hunger, and we can't let that continue to happen, okay? Now let's talk about how bad hunger is in America, right? Because we know there's places in the world that are in modes of starvation and suffer from hunger, right? But do we know that it actually happens in America? Yeah, it does happen in America. Even though America is one of the richest places on the planet, right? Hunger still happens here, okay? 1 out of every 10 homes in America deals with food insecurity. And food insecurity is just not knowing where your next meal is going to come from, right? Not knowing where you're going to get dinner at or when you're going to get dinner, okay? Imagine if 1 out of every 10 homes don't know where they're going to get their next meal at. And then 1 out of 8 homes can't even afford to buy enough to feed their families, right? So if you think about the 24 kids in your class, that means at least 4 of those kids don't have food in their house. Okay? Their parents can't afford to buy food to feed them. And that's really, really sad. Okay? 22 million children rely on school lunch programs as their only complete meal for the day, right? So I know a lot of us don't like the school lunches that are handed out here, and a lot of us complain about they don't like the lunch, right? But imagine if that was your only option to be able to get a meal during the day. You would probably really get to rely on it and really get to like it, okay? There are 22 million children in the United States that's all they get is their school lunch. That's sad too, okay? Children who experience food insecurity are at a higher risk of developing physical problems and mental problems, such as like asthma, right? Where you can't breathe when you're running around trying to do what your body what you want your body to do, right? You get asthma, and so it's hard for you to breathe, okay? And then people that suffer from food insecurity also suffer from anxiety and depression. And then guess what? If you don't have enough food in your body, it's really hard to be your best in school, okay? Because your brain needs food to fuel it, right? We talked in an earlier lesson about food being our fuel, right? And if you don't have enough fuel in your body to be able to fuel your brain, then your brain can't perform as it needs to in school, right? And so you might not be as smart as you could be, or you might not be able to concentrate like you should to be able to read or do your math, right? So we got to make sure that we deal with some of these issues in the United States. And like I said, I know a lot of times we think that there are places in the world that deal with hunger, right? But we got to remember that there are a lot of people in the United States, even here in City Heights, that deal with hunger, okay? So what causes hunger in the United States anyways? If the United States is so rich, right, why can't we afford to feed everybody here? And the truth is, we could afford to feed everybody if we did things right. The United States produces more than enough food to feed the entire people of the United States, and then still send some food out to other countries, okay? But because food isn't distributed by everybody should get an equal part here in the United States, right? Food is distributed by how much you can afford to buy. There are people that really can't afford it, right? And it makes things hard for them, and they end up having to suffer from hunger, even though the United States produces enough for everybody. I have a picture here of a bunch of apples that are being buried and being thrown away because the farmers produce way more than enough apples to feed everybody in the United States. But because apples cost money and they aren't always bought, right? The farmers have to throw some of them away. And here's a picture of a whole lot of apples being thrown away. Um, 30 to 40% of the food that the farmers grow in the United States is wasted. It's thrown away because they produce way too much. And they're only producing enough that they want to be able to sell to a market or be able to get to you, right? But not all the time is the food actually bought. So sometimes farmers have to what they call dig under their produce, right, and destroy their produce, so that way the rest that they do send out to the market can get sold. Let me see. Why do we waste so much food here in America? If there is enough food to feed everybody, why are we wasting it, right? One of the reasons is here in the United States, we just throw away things that don't look appetizing or appealing to us anymore, right? If you go to the market and you see a bunch of tomatoes in the tomato little cart right there, right? Your mom or your dad might pick out the best 2 or 3 tomatoes and take home those best 2 or 3 tomatoes, right? But then there's a whole bunch of leftover tomatoes that nobody ever picks out, right? And so they stay there in the market, and eventually the market can't sell bad fruit. So it goes and takes out the stuff that nobody's picked out in a couple of days, and it throws them away. Like right here in this trash can is a picture of a bunch of cucumber and a bunch of tomatoes that were in a market. Nobody wanted them because they weren't the best looking ones, right? Sometimes people don't pick a tomato because it doesn't look red enough, or it doesn't look round enough, right? Or it may have a little mark on it. Doesn't mean it's not a good tomato. It just means it's not appealing to us, right? And so it ends up being thrown away and wasted instead of given to somebody that could actually use it, right? A lot of times our eyes are actually bigger than our stomachs. So say you get to go to a buffet, right? And at a buffet, you get to serve yourself as much food as you can possibly want, right? The thing is, for a lot of us, we serve ourselves so much food, we're never going to be able to eat it. And then we get the rest and we just throw it away. It's wasting a lot of food that could have been used to feed people, that could have been used to do better things with, right? And then for a lot of people, they like to make their refrigerators look nice and full. Like there's always going to be things to drink in there, always going to be things to eat in there. Our parents go shopping at the market and they buy a lot of food at one time. But guess what? A lot of that food goes to waste. So, like, say you have tomatoes in your refrigerator, right? Your mom goes and buys 5 or 6 tomatoes, but in the next couple of weeks, she's only going to use 2, right? Eventually she has to throw out the bad ones, and so a lot of that goes to waste. Even though she didn't need to buy 5 or 6, she wanted the refrigerator to look like there was enough tomatoes in there. So we got to kind of stop doing this stuff where we buy or we get so much of this food that we think we're going to use and we don't ever use it, so we have to throw it away. Okay, now the important thing is, what can we actually do about this, right? Mr. Gomez says, this is a huge problem throughout the world and throughout the United States. And, I'm just a kid at Darnell. How am I going to help make sure that we can fix this problem, right? So here's a couple of things that you might be able to do at your age, right? Talk with your family and your friends about the problem with hunger in the United States, right? Let them know that we're buying you too much food and we're serving ourselves too much food and we're never going to eat it, right? So we got to cut down on our proportions and cut down on how much we serve ourselves, cut down on how much we buy, right? And we can start buying some of the stuff, even though it doesn't look round, right? An apple that doesn't look round still isn't going to still will taste like an apple, right? Just because it isn't the roundest or the reddest, it might still actually taste really, really good, right? One of the things that is very common is watermelons, right? People buy watermelons for how pretty they look. The thing is, if anybody really knew about watermelons, sometimes the best tasting watermelons are the ones that look like the ugliest ones. They have a lot of different colors outside. They have a lot of things that we would call like veins, right? Those are actually the sweetest tasting watermelons. If you have a place at your home to start a garden uh, and be able to eat what you grow, that would be one of the best things you could possibly do. Okay. We have a garden here at Darnell that Miss Eve started for all of you guys, right? And you guys are able to get some produce out of there and able to taste what is being grown out there. And that's one of the greatest things that anybody could do, right? And she's teaching you guys on the importance of growing your own food and doing something called sustainable eating, right? Where you can actually eat what you're growing and grow enough to eat your own stuff, right? So that way you don't have to rely on big giant markets to be able to get your tomatoes or get your lettuce, right? Here is one very important thing that you guys could help do, okay? And I'm gonna challenge you guys to do this. If you guys want to do this, that's great, okay? You guys can bring non-perishable foods, meaning non-perishable means foods that won't go bad, okay? Like foods that are in a can or foods that are in boxes, okay? Not things that you would put in a refrigerator. If you guys can bring some non-perishable food to school, I will go around and collect it from your teachers, and I will make sure it gets to a place called the City Heights Community Fridge, right? And let me explain what the City Heights Community Fridge is, okay? Let me go here. Here is their website, okay? The City Heights Community Fridge is a place where people can donate food, okay, that other people in City Heights can use if they're hungry, okay? So say I have some extra rice at my house that I know I'm probably not going to be able to use, right? I can donate it to the City Heights Community Fridge and somebody that needs some rice because they can't afford to feed them their family or because it's just a hard struggle right now could literally walk up there and get some rice off the shelf and take it home at absolutely no cost, okay? So it's people from this community helping people from this community. It says for the community, by the community, right? So since a lot of you guys or most of you guys probably live in City Heights, this would be a cool thing to do. So if you guys want to donate some food, bring it into your teacher. Your teacher can call me then, and I will go around and pick it up and make sure I take it to this place and leave it for some people in City Heights that might be struggling a little bit. Okay, so that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys are doing really well. I hope you guys are getting ready for the end of the school year. Okay, so have a good day, you guys.